Retrogrades. Something in astrology that, especially with Mercury retrograde, can bring the hubbub, bub. And I want to tell you all about why I have a big problem with the concept of retrogrades. First of all, welcome back to another video. I'm Ann Blackwood, your Silicon Valley Sage Sister, here to bring consciousness to the forefront of your daily life to make life a little kinder and simpler. Now, astrology is an old, divining tool, way of forecasting the future. And I can get down with astrology to a certain degree. I personally have found more value in human design than I have in general zodiac astrology. But that said, as I've said in other videos, when it comes to astrology, I prefer to look at astrology as something to look back on rather than use as something to forecast into the future. Because I find that more often than not, people will create self-fulfilling prophecies out of astrology. Which is why even when I talk about human design, I talk about its validating properties. Because for me at this point, everything that I get out of human design are things that I have through years and 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 years, like many, 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 many years, like probably at a minimum 15 introspectively, have been noticing about myself, and human design has then validated. Things like what would be a good one? The fact that I am here in general to view things and then report back my perception of them. The fact that I am supposed to be using my voice as a sounding board to figure out what is right or not. A great example of this is just the other week, I was with my fellow doTERRA witches and we were planning the full moon gathering. And when we plan our full and new moon gatherings, we'll talk about, maybe several in a row, even though we're planning just the next one ahead. And I had an idea. And it sounded right in my head, but it wasn't until I started saying it out loud that I realized how not a good idea it was. And the moment it started coming out of my mouth, like I didn't even have to say it all the way. Just the moment I said a couple of words, I started to realize that it wasn't going to work and started to correct myself and be like, yeah, nope, never mind, guys. Totally forget about what I was just about to say, even though I kind of finished my thought. And so on and so forth. Human design is amazing. But let's get to the point, shall we? Retrogrades. So, to my understanding, and there are people who understand astrology better than I do. So if you're watching this and you understand astrology better than I do, please correct me in the comments. Like, I am here to learn just as much as I am ever here to teach. So if I'm wrong about something, tell me about it. I'm going to tell you what I understand so far, and I'm pretty sure I've got a pretty good understanding of this one. So, retrogrades in astrology is the concept of planets looking like they are moving backwards in comparison to the rest of the planets, which is what creates this retrograde, moving backwards. The planets don't move backwards in our solar system. The planets are always moving forward. So if in comparison to the other planets, a particular planet looks from our perspective like it's moving backwards because it's not moving as fast forwards as the other planets are in their rotation, that isn't a retrograde. And this is some place that I feel like astrology could benefit from a modern understanding upgrade. especially because, like, for instance, Mercury. Mercury is constantly in retrograde. You know, when you first get into astrology, like, people make Mercury retrograde out to be this massive thing. But then as you start to understand how often they happen, all of a sudden you realize, like, it's not as big of a deal as people make it out to be. And yeah, we're going to have stagnant energy. So I could get down with the idea if there was some word for it that described stagnant energy, because something is standing still or moving very slowly forward so that it seems like it is still or moving backwards in comparison. Either way, I have a really hard time with this concept of retrogrades in astrology, because planets don't actually move backwards. Doesn't happen. Not to my knowledge, not to the knowledge of anybody that I know, that I've talked to. So if you're an astronomy major, and you can correct me on that, do planets move backwards? I don't think so. I've taken that class a couple of times too. Astronomy, not astrology. Just to clarify. Planets don't actually move backwards in our solar system. So this concept of retrograde is coming from a place of a lie? Meh? In that sense, because even if something looks a certain way, doesn't mean that it is a certain way. Then I just can't get down with the whole Mercury retrograde hype in general, because it happens a lot. There is only one person that every once in a while I will get astrology forecasts from. And that is because at this point I have watched her enough to know that she knows what she's talking about when it comes to astrology. That said, like I've said, just can't take it as seriously, because sure, there have been times in my life where I have had someone say, oh, you were experiencing that? Well, we just experienced this in astrology, and that totally lines up. And I'm like, cool. That actually makes a lot of sense. Like, for instance, we have what we call our Saturn return in astrology. And this is something that people experience about every 30 years. For instance, our birthday would be our sun return. So you start to understand that your Saturn return is Saturn returning to the place it was when you were born. Just like your birthday every year would be the sun returning to where it was when you were born. And Saturn return can be this 3-year period of extreme change for people. And to be fair, during my Saturn return, I had no idea it was my Saturn return until I was about 2 years in. And looking back on it, yeah, there was definitely some change and some maturing that went on. But whether or not that was really attributed to the fact that Saturn was where it was in my birth chart for that 3 years, or if it was just all of the other decisions and if they have anything to do with each other, I'm still just not entirely convinced. Like I said, it's fun to look back on. I love using it as this sort of like, does this line up? Like, it's a fun experiment to play. Because as I've said before, I think horoscopes are absolute garbage in general, because it's just your sun sign. And there are many other planets in our solar system that affect our chart astrologically, which is why I like human design. Because human design, not only does it have your standard zodiac chart going on, but it also has the chart from 3 months, I believe it is, before you were born. And those come together with some other things. So it's not just astrology that's being used in human design either. But yeah, so, you know, in the grand scheme of things, our planets don't move backwards. Though they might appear to look like they're moving backwards from our perspective when we can see them at all. Planets don't move backwards. So it's not a retrograde. And I feel like in general, people all too often use astrology as these sort of self-fulfilling prophecies or as excuses to do something or not do something. So again, that's also why when I talk about human design, I talk about what it validates for me and make it clear that I understand that that's where that's coming from. Is that when I see things that I like about human design, it's because it's validated something that I already saw in myself. And recognize that human ego contribution to that. Now, that being said, moving forward, the more I live by what they call my strategy and authority in human design, the better my life is, the easier my life is. But that's because, again, I've recognized over years, even before I knew about human design, what was good for me when it came to how I was supposed to live my life, when it came to my priorities, boundaries, values, belief systems, etc. So, human design has just been a nice way to validate all of the things that I already knew about myself, but just in the moment when I found human design, needed that sort of confidence booster of that validation because I was going through a low point in my own confidence. I had sort of new level, new devil blocks, as we call them, where I felt like an expert and then stepped into a new arena and all of a sudden no longer felt like the expert that I was. And to be fair, some of that was because I wasn't an expert in this new arena I was stepping in. But it was also that I let that convince me that I was not an expert in ways that I was. So, we've got to be careful. We've got to be careful what we allow to validate our ego is really the lesson here. We've got to be careful when we aren't listening to ourselves and our intuition and the things that comes up within us with love, which when I say with love, I don't always mean like happy and joyful and like validating either, or validating in a good way. Sometimes our intuition out of love, because it is our connection to God, source, spirit, cosmic consciousness, can validate within us the things we know we need to do that aren't always the fun things. Because that's how love works. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for somebody is not be accepting or tolerant. So we want to really be careful what we allow to get to us and bring down our self-esteem, and what we allow to boost our self-esteem. We want to be constantly, consciously aware of what it is where we are allowing to affect our emotions and our ego in general, let alone our decisions and decision-making processes. And when it comes to astrology and retrogrades, that's one of the things I pay the least attention to. Yeah. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you guys for joining me for another video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to check out the links in the description. Like button stuff, all the things. As per usual, I'm going to talk about Patreon, doTERRA, and my one-on-one sessions. Let's start with doTERRA since I've been ending with it recently. doTERRA is your one-stop shop for all of the amazing plant-based products and plant medicine that you can use to replace all of those synthetic chemical-based products you have in your home. And I mean everything. And if you're not the kind of person who likes to play potions like some of us witches do, they have products already ready-made for you. doTERRA is an essential oils company that makes the best ready-made products from the essential oils that they source, and they are the purest, best essential oils, like hands down. And if I remember correctly from what they said today when I was in their leadership conference, pretty sure they are the biggest essential oil company in America, at least. Maybe in the world? Not sure. But they are the best, and they are the purest. They are the cleanest, because they take the time to work with their sources of the plants, and therefore the oils, in a way that no other essential oil company does. And they have everything from household products like kitchen cleaning products, dishwasher detergent, dishwasher detergent, dish soap, soaps, laundry detergent, shampoos and conditioners, body lotions. They have supplements. They have just the essential oils. They have everything. If there's something in your home that's a chemical-based product, they have a plant-based product that you can replace it with. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And there's a reason why it's taken me a year to start talking about this, because I only talk about what I actually have experienced myself when it comes to these kinds of things. So if I hadn't experienced the magic, truly the magic of doTERRA for myself for the last year and a half now, I wouldn't be talking about it. But I stand strong with doTERRA, and that's why I decided to become what they consider an official wellness advocate, rather than passing on what would be my potential clients to, or sponsees, to those who are now my upline, because I believe in it so much that I want to make sure that this gets into the hands of anyone that I can, and realize that when I was trying to talk to people about doTERRA, that trying to hand them off to somebody else they didn't know wasn't going to get them involved, wasn't going to get it into their life. And people need this. People need doTERRA products in their lives, because they are the best, and they keep all the synthetic chemical crap out of your life. So doTERRA. We also have doTERRA Witches, which is the group witches that I really like that. That made me laugh, clearly. doTERRA Witches is a group that I am a part of, and we do all sorts of amazing free classes and gatherings. Everything from classes about doTERRA, doTERRA oils, just being a customer and learning about how amazing they can be in your life, to actually becoming a wellness advocate yourself. We also do witchy gatherings. We're about to do the Witch Flicks, where we watch a movie together once a month. We are going to watch The Labyrinth. Can't wait. We also do full and new moon gatherings, all sorts of fun stuff. You can find the links to those. We're mostly on Instagram, but we do have a Facebook group, but we don't post as much in our Facebook group. I'm trying to get better at that. It's partly my responsibility because I took it on. doTERRA Witches. Check us out. Instagram if you have it, Facebook if you have it. Next, I'm going to talk about my Patreon, where I have all of my journal exercises, guided meditations, mini courses, workshops, one-off videos like I have here on YouTube, but where I get even deeper. Like, for instance, the video I did here yesterday on YouTube has a whole guided meditation attached to it on Patreon for all members. And that starts at as little as $11.11 a month. But I definitely recommend my $23 a month membership tier, because that gives you pretty much everything my Patreon has to offer. The only things that the other two tiers above that gets you is either my sanctuary content, where I get a little more personal, or my enlightening tier, where that gets you everything the ascending and enlightening tier has to offer. Sorry. Let me start over and slow down. If you sign up for the enlightening tier, that gives you everything that the ascending and awakening tier has to offer, plus a once a month session with me and access to Voxer direct messaging, because all of my one-on-one clients get access to messaging me in between sessions, so that we don't take up our session time with asking me questions, talking about questions that came up in between. Especially when you only have one with me a month. Speaking of which, my books are still open for one-on-one clients. I have several spots still available. A couple actually just opened back up, which is amazing, because I love it when clients feel like they've graduated needing my help, because that's the whole point. I'm trying to help people end the cycles of suffering that they're experiencing in their life, not continue them for me to have to help them. So if you're ready to, as I say, heal, grow, expand your consciousness, if you're ready to have the tools you need before you need them to end the cycles of suffering in your life, I want to help you do that. And you can either sign up for my free clarity call, you can email me, or if you don't have any questions and you're ready to just jump right in, you can just sign up for one of my session packages, and that is a link in the description, and that commits you to a certain amount of sessions, and then we will customize everything else from there, everything from how often we work together, every other week, twice a week, once a week, and what we work on. And if you don't know what you want to work on, I've got you covered there too. We can get you started and figure out what it is you do want to or need to work on. Bunch of other links in the description. Go check them out. Definitely, if you're enjoying my content here, would recommend checking out all the other links in the description. And as always, may the energies you serve you well, and let's keep making our way through.